5 or 10 minutes they're late. That's usually enough to get their attention. Similarly, slow play, everybody occasionally takes more time than there are, than is allotted. But those who are perpetually slow are a detriment to your game. And as I say in this write-up, if you send one bad actor to the competition, you'll get 10 back in return. And they'll be nice. Also, it encourages the others to keep up. So another part in this write-up is that some bridge players are like children, and you have to be P&P, patient and persistent. And when they do something that's not allowed, or like tell a partner what a moron you are, that's sort of a level 1 crime, and you should respond with a level 1 response. Like, all right, that's 1 match point penalty, no more, or 3 match points. And very quickly, I think, you will find that the people who are problems will change. Either that, or their partners will stop playing with them, because when they get a 3 match point penalty and they go from first to second, they're going to be very unhappy. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, the poor partner didn't do anything. He played with them. That's enough. Everybody knows who the problems are, and while they may be your top players, if you penalize them, they won't have partners very shortly, and then you won't have that problem. So that psychology has a great deal to do with how you enforce the laws and how you cope with your players. If you go in nervous or non-confrontational, and most of us don't like to be confrontational. I hate it. But P&P, if you're polite and persistent, you don't have to be confrontational. You just say, this isn't acceptable. You have a 1 match point penalty. And then you have to, you don't ever want to be in the position where what they call gunny sack. So Jack here does something, and so you put it in your gunny sack and say, well, I'll talk to him later. And 3 or 4 rounds later, he does something, and you put it in your gunny sack, and he does something. Later on, he does something. And finally, after 3 or 4 sessions, you've got this gunny sack of complaints against Jack, and you dump all over him when he passes out a turn. Now, that isn't going to get the respect of the players or the attention of Jack. You are going to diminish yourself. So you have to meet every crime, bridge crime, with an appropriate response. And when you come to work, or at least when I come to work, I tell myself, well, I'm not getting paid to show my temper or my nastiness. I'm getting paid to smile and be pleasant. And that is, I think, the right attitude when you're coming to work. One other thing, I used to think that it was an effort to smile and it just showed my facial expression. Well, I've been reading research now that if you smile, you actually feel better. So there's another benefit. Plus, and this is a secret, a good smile covers a multitude of sins. People will forgive you a lot if you're smiling and pleasant. And I can attest to that because I am mostly smiling and pleasant. So, zero tolerance is your responsibility. Nobody else is going to do it. You have to prepare yourself for it. You have to be psychologically ready for it. And you never want to get yourself back into a corner. And you don't want to get yourself into a position where you dump all over somebody for a minor infraction. And I think that's about the best I can do. Anybody? Yes, sir.
All right, now you said zero tolerance means that you would give a level 1 penalty for a level 1. So you don't believe, from hearing what you said, you don't believe in giving warnings.
Well, how many people do you think are in your game are ignorant of decent behavior?
Probably none. Okay.
They have no warning.
Well, the reason I asked that is because on our local board for our club,
Yes.
they took it upon themselves to decide what we directors would do in these situations. They say our club is zero tolerance, and then they say give them a warning, give them an extra 2 minutes after the time is up and stuff like that. And they're the board, and as a new director, I'm going to start my second year now as director, I didn't know any better. That's why I appreciate, Paul, this opportunity, because we've never had an opportunity to talk to somebody at that level. All we hear is the board says, you do this. And if somebody's so getting mad, cussing at us and all that, and we have the audacity to tell them not to come back, well, then they go talk to the board and they're back in a week. Something's is out of balance. Where do we find some guidelines to say, board, look, this is, they're undermining us, not on purpose, but they're making it harder for us to be pleasant and persistent.
You're absolutely right about that. We are a political organization, and the board has the right to set the policy for their club. The management has the right to set their policies. And the only thing I can suggest is making a presentation similar to what I did, saying that people who are perpetually slow or perpetually late shouldn't have those warnings. They've already gotten their warning. We have a couple in Memphis who are always slow. Everybody knows people like that. And
Yes.
we have once a month we have a Swiss team for 8 is enough, and this couple are very good players, and one of them, as a matter of fact, I was told, took 10 minutes trying to figure out how to make an over trick in a Swiss team. As a result, they didn't play their last board. Their opponents were upset because it happened, and pulling a board from a Swiss is a very random penalty. That happened that the people their opponents got a good board on that one board that was pulled, so that made them even more unhappy. So the next month, my advice was sought, and I said, well, just when they come in, go up to them and say, you're on warning.
Oh, before you start.
Before you start. So the perpetual ones, you've given them their warning. Now, your board might think that's a bit of sophistry, but give it a try. Yes, sir.
In the local games, I'm only referring to the local games now, you have some people playing who have some kind of infirmity of some kind, or have some degradation of their mental skill. What do you do with those people when they run out? You tell them they can't play?
No. And matter of fact, that would be against the law of the land. We have to make reasonable accommodation to people who have handicaps. And, for instance, blind people, we have special boards for, Braille cards. People are usually very accommodative of calling out their cards to people who can't see well, and all that. But a reasonable accommodation is not extending the time of your game by 20 minutes or half an hour.
Oh, no.
So if, just tell them, I'm happy to accommodate you, I'll work with you as much as I can, but I have to keep the game going. And occasionally I'll just have to take a board away, I'll give you a no play, so you get an average of your other scores. But you have to work with me and you have to do your best, and I'll work with you. Yes.
Charlie, Houston's so diverse, and we have so many great, wonderful bridge players and so many wonderful clubs.